All right, so on these motors, the valve adjustment is a little bit of a nuisance to do. So the valves are technically behind these covers here. So that's the front one, and the back one is on this side. And each of the cylinders has these side covers that need to come off. And on the other side, there is this cap here that opens up that gives us access to the crank, so we can crank the motor over to bring the cylinders to top dead center, so we can do the adjustment. So let's take off all the covers, and we're going to do one at a time. So we're going to do the front cylinder first. Let's take this cover, the valve cover, and the side cover on the cylinder head over there off, and take a look at what we're working with. Okay, so I opened up these two. The bottom one is to rotate the engine over. Top one is to look at the marks on the generator so that we can line up with the top dead center. I opened up the cover on the rear cylinder just so we can see things as well being lined up. So this mark right here, there's like a little dot and a little loop, needs to line up with this little groove when we're doing this one. I've opened up the front valve cover, so this one is the one we're going to adjust first. So essentially we're going to look for the spacing under this and how much that is. And then on the front cylinder, I've also opened up the side. Again, here we're going to be looking for this little hole lining up with this mark up here. Let's figure out how we're going to crank over the motor. I believe we need a pretty long extension to put in there to rotate it, and let's look for the proper markings so that we can get things in order. Okay, so we've aligned the hole with the top, and pretty sure this is the top dead center for the front cylinder, and you can kind of listen to it for when it's doing the compression, so you want it to be on the compression stroke. So I have a gauge here. The clearance on that intake valve needs to be between 0.07 and 0.12 millimeters. So I went with the 0.10. So this should be right on. And if we put it in there, yep, it goes in and out nice and smooth. Just to check that it's not too loose, we're going to go 12-13, which is 0.01 millimeter larger than the setting described in the manual as the max. And yeah, that can't go through, so that's good. And we don't need to bother with the 0.15. That's good. We can certainly don't need to adjust that. Let's open up the exhaust valve cover and check that as well. So we have the exhaust valve open as well. The measurement on this one should be between 0.12 and 0.17. So what we're looking for is something around the range of 0.15 or 0.15. So that's this guy, and that fits nicely. And just to check the outer range, 0.18 should not fit. And yeah, that doesn't fit. So the exhaust valve is pretty good as well. Okay, so front cylinder is good. Yamaha did a good job to not need to adjust these for a bike that's nearly 20 years old and has never had these adjusted. That's amazing. Even though the user manual says to check them with every oil change, well, I don't think I would be, because this is quite a bit of disassembly to get to these. And given that it already lasted this long, I don't expect it to all of a sudden start loosening these up. So that's great. Let's cover these back up and check the rear cylinder. Okay, so we have the rear cylinder lined up with the top mark. And interestingly, the rear cylinder is a little out of spec. So if we did the same measurement, the 0.10, that doesn't fit. So it doesn't want to go in. So trying 0.08 that also doesn't want to go in, and now 0.06 does. So the range is for 0.7 to 0.12. So that must be either right at the minimum of 0.7 or it's actually below that at 0.6. So either way, that's way too low. I think I'd rather have it at the 0.10 mark, kind of like the way the front cylinder is. So we will be adjusting this. Now to adjust that, we just need to loosen up this tightening screw at the top, and then move the actual valve adjuster up and down until we have a good fitment. So we're going to adjust that, and then we're going to move on to the back one, which is annoyingly covered. So I was able to loosen up the cover, which is here, and then we're going to check that to see how that does for the clearance. All right, and this is after the valve has been adjusted. So with the 0.10 millimeter, the feeler gauge goes under nice and easy, and 0.13, which is out of spec, so 0.12 should be the max, cannot go under. So that's perfect. So now I'm just going to tighten the lock nut on top to spec so that it doesn't come loose, because you know I've done that in the past. And we'll close this one up and then look at the exhaust one. All right, and here's the rear valve. It is tighter than 0.15, but the 0.13 actually goes under quite nicely. So there we go. So that's actually perfectly within spec. The range is 0.12 to 0.17. Could it be a little looser? Probably, but I think at 0.13 that's okay. Also, you know, trying to get in there to tighten that nut to spec probably isn't gonna happen. So let's leave that be. I'll clean up the cover and put it back on there, and the valve adjustment is done. Back cover is on. I couldn't get my torque wrench in there to tighten the 2 bolts, but thankfully the torque spec on those is pretty low, so I just tightened it by hand, kind of based on what the other 3 felt like. I wiped down this area a little more so it's nice and clean. Let's get this cover back on and wrap this up. Also, we don't need this in there anymore, so let's get that out and put the 2 plugs back on, and then we're going to do the same cover on the other side. So let's get this side sorted out first. All right, this side is done. All the covers are on, they're cleaned. The chrome was nice and shiny. The plugs are on. Done. Let's now do the other side, where we still need to put the cover back on, wipe some things down, and wrap it up. All right, this side is now assembled as well. So the valves are adjusted, everything's good. I think we're done here. That was it for this episode. We adjusted the valves on the V-Star. Make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell for notifications when new videos become available. In the next episode, we're going to be changing out these rubber boots and doing some final tweaks on the carburetors and putting them back on the bike. So make sure to check that out when it comes out. Check me out on Instagram at Moto 2018, and check out balkanmoto.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.